Elena Vasquez stood at the window of her ship and watched the massive space station grow larger in front of her. The council station was bigger than any human city. It looked like a metal flower with 12 petals, each one built by a different alien race. Ships from across the galaxy moved around it like tiny insects. After 3 months of traveling through space, she was finally here. Elena touched the diplomatic seal on her uniform. She was Earth's first ambassador to the Galactic Council. This was the most important job any human had ever been given. The future of her entire species depended on what happened in the next few days. Her assistant, David Park, walked up beside her. "The station is requesting permission to board us for inspection," he said. "Should I tell them yes?" Elena nodded. "Of course. We have nothing to hide." 20 minutes later, 4 alien beings walked onto their ship. Elena had studied pictures of them, but seeing them in person was different. The leader was tall and gray with 4 arms. His name was Inspector Veltar from the Hegemony. Behind him came a short, furry creature with big black eyes. Then a tall, thin being that looked like it was made of crystal, and finally something that looked like a walking tree. "Welcome to Council Space, human," Veltar said. His voice sounded like metal scraping against metal. "I am here to make sure you understand our rules." "Thank you for meeting us," Elena said with a smile. "I'm Ambassador Elena Vasquez. I'm here to discuss peaceful relations between Earth and the Council." Veltar's 4 eyes looked at her without any emotion. "Yes, we know why you are here. Your species has been expanding very quickly across this part of space. The Council is concerned." Elena kept her smile, but inside she felt worried. Earth has been careful to avoid any systems that belong to other species. "We followed all the rules we knew about." "The rules you knew about," the crystal being said in a voice like wind chimes. "That is the problem. Your species acts without asking permission first." The furry alien made a chittering sound. Elena's translator told her it meant amusement. "Humans think they can go anywhere they want," it said. "Just like children." Elena felt her face get hot, but she stayed calm. "We're here to learn and to follow proper procedures. That's why Earth sent me." Veltar walked around the ship's main room, touching things with his lower arms while his upper arms stayed crossed. "Your technology is interesting," he said. "These quantum drives, these AI systems, where did you learn to build them?" "We developed them ourselves," Elena said proudly. "Human scientists have worked very hard to create new technologies." The 4 aliens looked at each other. Elena noticed they seemed surprised, but not in a good way. "You developed quantum drives in less than 100 years?" The tree-like being asked. Its voice sounded like rustling leaves. "Most species take 1,000 years to understand such things." "Humans learn quickly," Elena said. "We're good at solving problems." Veltar stopped walking and stared at her. "Perhaps too quickly. The Council has been watching your species. In 50 years you have gone from 1 planet to 20 systems. You build ships faster than any species we have seen. You create new weapons, new computers, new ways to travel through space. This makes the Council nervous." Elena felt a cold feeling in her stomach. This was not going the way she had hoped. "Earth doesn't want to threaten anyone. We want to be friends with all species." "Friends," the crystal being repeated. "Yet your ships carry weapons that could destroy entire fleets." "Those are for defense only," Elena said quickly. "Earth has never attacked another species." "Yet," Veltar said. "The Council has seen many young species say the same thing. They all want peace until they become strong enough for war." The aliens finished their inspection and prepared to leave. Veltar turned back to Elena. "The Council will meet with you tomorrow. They will listen to what Earth wants to say. But understand this, human, the galaxy has been at peace for over 2,000 years. The Council will not let one species destroy that peace." After they left, Elena sat down heavily in her chair. David brought her a cup of coffee. "That didn't go well," he said. Elena shook her head. "They're afraid of us. I can see it in their eyes. They think we're going to become a threat." "Are we?" David asked quietly. Elena looked out at the massive station. Millions of aliens lived and worked there. The Council controlled trade, military movements, and laws across hundreds of systems. They had power that humans could barely imagine. "No," she said finally. "But I don't think they'll believe that." The next morning, Elena put on her best diplomatic uniform. She carried with her a datapad containing Earth's formal proposals. Trade agreements, cultural exchange programs, joint scientific research projects, and promises to follow all Council laws. Everything Earth wanted was written down in careful, peaceful language. A Council ship picked her up and took her to the main station. As they flew closer, Elena could see that each of the 12 petals was actually a huge building. The ship landed in a bay that was bigger than any airport on Earth. 2 guards met her at the landing pad. They were tall and wore armor that looked like it was made from black metal. They didn't speak, just pointed for her to follow. The council chamber was at the center of the station. Elena walked through long halls filled with aliens from dozens of different species. Some looked almost human. Others were so strange she couldn't understand how they moved or spoke. All of them stopped to stare at her as she passed. The chamber itself was enormous. 12 chairs sat in a circle, each one designed for a different type of alien body. Above each chair was a symbol representing one of the founding species of the council. In the center was a small platform where Elena was supposed to stand. As she walked to the platform, the 12 council members entered the chamber. Elena had studied all of them, but seeing them together was intimidating. These beings had ruled the galaxy since before humans had learned to use fire. Veltar took his seat and spoke first. The council recognizes Ambassador Elena Vasquez of the species called humans. You may present your petition. Elena stepped forward and began to speak. She talked about Earth's desire for peace, about the benefits of trade between humans and other species, about the scientific discoveries they could make together. She spoke for 30 minutes using all her training and skill to make the best case possible for humanity. When she finished, the chamber was quiet for a long moment. Finally, the crystal being spoke. Your words are pretty, human, but the council has already made its decision about your species. Elena felt her heart sink. What decision? Humans are too dangerous to be allowed to continue expanding, Veltar said. You develop technology too quickly. You spread across space too fast. You do not respect the natural order of things. But we haven't done anything wrong, Elena protested. Not yet, said a council member that looked like a giant insect. But you will. All young species do. The galaxy cannot afford to wait and see what humans will become. Elena realized with growing horror what they were really saying. You've already decided to stop us, haven't you? This meeting is just for show. The furry alien made its chittering laugh again. Finally, the human understands. The council does not negotiate with children. We make decisions for the good of all. Elena stood straighter and looked each council member in the eye. Then you've made a terrible mistake. Humans are not children, and we will not be bullied. Her words echoed in the huge chamber as 12 ancient aliens stared down at one lone human who refused to back down. Elena spent the night in the quarters assigned to her on the council station. She couldn't sleep. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw the cold faces of the council members. They had already made up their minds about humanity before she even arrived. David brought her breakfast, but she could barely eat. The council has invited you to a formal reception tonight, he said. All 12 members will be there, plus representatives from 50 other species. Elena looked up from her untouched food. Why would they invite me to a party after what happened yesterday? Maybe they want to give you another chance, David said, but his voice didn't sound convinced. Elena knew better. In all her years as a diplomat, she had learned to read people. The council wasn't planning to change their minds. This reception was something else entirely. That evening, Elena put on her formal dress uniform. The jacket was dark blue with gold trim, and the diplomatic seal of Earth was pinned over her heart. She looked at herself in the mirror and tried to smile. If this was going to be her last chance to speak for humanity, she would do it right. The reception hall was huge and filled with beings from across the galaxy. Elena recognized some species from her studies, but many were completely new to her. Floating lights hung from the ceiling and soft music played from hidden speakers. Tables were loaded with foods from dozens of different worlds. At first, the evening seemed normal. Various aliens approached Elena to introduce themselves. Most were curious about humans and asked polite questions about Earth. Elena answered them all with patience and grace, hoping to make a good impression. But she noticed that the 12 council members stayed away from her. They stood together in a group on the far side of the hall, watching her but not approaching. Their body language told Elena everything she needed to know. They were waiting for something. About an hour into the reception, Counselor Thekmore approached her. Thekmore was from the hegemony, the most powerful of the council races. He was tall and gray with 4 arms, and his face never showed any emotion. Ambassador Vasquez, he said in his metallic voice, I hope you are enjoying our hospitality. Thank you, Counselor, Elena replied. Everyone has been very kind. Good. I wanted to speak with you about your species' future in this galaxy. Elena felt her muscles tense, but she kept her voice calm. I'm always happy to discuss peaceful relations. Thekmore's 4 eyes fixed on her face. Tell me, human, do you truly believe your species deserves a place among the civilized races of this galaxy? The question felt like a trap, but Elena answered honestly. Yes, I do. Humans have as much right to exist among the stars as any other species. Even though you have developed dangerous technologies in an impossibly short time, our technologies aren't dangerous unless someone makes them dangerous, Elena said. We've never used them to attack anyone, yet, Thekmore said. But what happens when your species decides it wants more? When you look at our worlds and decide you want them for yourselves? Elena felt anger rising in her chest, but she forced herself to stay diplomatic. Humans don't want to take anyone's worlds. We want to build our own civilization and share knowledge with others. Share knowledge, Thekmore repeated. Like the knowledge of how to build weapons that could destroy council fleets. We've never shared military technology with anyone, Elena said firmly, because no one has asked yet. But they will. And when they do, will humans say no? Will you refuse to help smaller species defend themselves against the council's power? Elena realized that Thekmore was leading her somewhere dangerous, but she couldn't back down now. Every alien in the hall was listening to their conversation. If a species was being attacked unjustly, then yes, humans would help them defend themselves. That's what good people do. Thekmore's face still showed no emotion, but Elena heard several other aliens gasp. She realized she had just said exactly what he wanted her to say. So you admit it, Thekmore said loudly. Humans plan to interfere with council authority. You plan to arm rebellious species and encourage them to fight against legitimate government. That's not what I said, Elena protested. I said we would help defend against unjust attacks. And who decides what is just or unjust? You? Your species that has existed for barely a moment in galactic history? Elena felt trapped. Every word she said was being twisted against her. Every species has the right to defend itself and live freely, even if that freedom threatens the stability of the entire galaxy. Freedom is never a threat to stability. Oppression is. The hall fell completely silent. Elena realized that she had just called the council oppressive in front of representatives from 50 different species. Thekmore smiled for the first time since she had met him. Thank you, Ambassador, he said. You have made the council's position very clear. Thekmore raised one of his 4 hands, and Elena heard a soft humming sound. She looked around and saw that every exit from the hall was now blocked by armed guards. Citizens of the galaxy, Thekmore announced in a voice that carried throughout the hall. You have just heard the human ambassador admit that her species plans to undermine council authority and arm rebellious factions across our peaceful galaxy. I never said that, Elena shouted, but her voice was drowned out by the sound system. The council cannot allow such a dangerous species to continue spreading across space. The human experiment ends tonight. Elena saw the weapon in Thekmore's hand too late. The energy beam hit her in the chest and she fell to the floor. Pain shot through her entire body, but she was still conscious. As she lay dying, she could hear Thekmore continuing to speak. Let this be a message to Earth and to all species who might consider following the human path. The Council maintains order in this galaxy. Those who threaten that order will be removed. Elena tried to speak, but blood filled her mouth. She thought about her husband back on Earth, about her daughter who was just starting college. She thought about all the humans living on 20 different worlds who were counting on her to keep them safe. With her last breath, she managed to whisper into her communication device, David, tell them. We tried to be peaceful. Tell them the Council chose war. The device recorded her final words and automatically transmitted them back to her ship. Elena Vasquez, Earth's first ambassador to the galaxy, died on the floor of the Council station while dozens of alien species watched. Thekmore looked down at her body without any sign of regret. Broadcast this recording to all human settlements, he ordered. Let them know what happens to species that refuse to accept their place in the natural order. What if they resist? Asked another council member. Then we will destroy them all, Thekmore replied. The galaxy has been peaceful for 2,000 years. We will not let one upstart species ruin that peace. Within hours, news of Elena's execution reached every human settlement in space. The recording showed her final moments, her brave words about freedom, and the Council's cold-blooded murder of an unarmed diplomat. Earth had sent Elena to make peace. The Council had sent back a declaration of war. Fleet Admiral Chenwei watched the recording of Elena's death for the 5th time in 2 hours. Each time she felt her anger grow hotter. The Council had murdered an unarmed diplomat in cold blood. They had broadcast it like it was entertainment. Chen sat in the command center of Earth Defense Station Alpha, 20,000 kilometers above the planet's surface. Through the massive windows, she could see Earth turning slowly below, blue and green and beautiful. Somewhere down there, Elena's family was grieving. Somewhere down there, 3 billion humans were demanding justice. "Admiral," said Captain Torres, her aide, "the Emergency Council is ready for your briefing." Chen nodded and walked to the main conference room. 12 people sat around the table. The most powerful leaders on Earth. The President, the Defense Minister, the heads of the military branches, and the directors of Earth's intelligence services. All of them looked angry and scared. "Ladies and gentlemen," Chen began, "you've all seen the recording. The Galactic Council has declared war on humanity by murdering our ambassador." "Are we certain this means war?" asked the President. "Maybe they're just trying to scare us into submission." Chen touched a control on the table and a holographic display appeared above them. It showed the galaxy with human settlements marked in blue and Council territories marked in red. Red surrounded blue on all sides. 3 hours ago, Council fleets began moving toward our border systems, Chen said. Long-range sensors show at least 50 warships heading for New Geneva, Titan Colony, and the Centauri settlements. "They're not trying to scare us, sir. They're planning to destroy us." The defense minister leaned forward. "How long do we have?" "With their faster-than-light drives, maybe 4 days before the first attacks begin." 4 days? The president said. "That's not enough time to evacuate 20 worlds." "No, sir, it's not. Which brings me to why I called this meeting." Chen stood up and faced the group. "I'm recommending we activate the Annihilation protocol." The room fell silent. Several people looked confused, but the older military leaders went pale. "Admiral," the president said carefully, "I'm not familiar with that protocol." Chen touched another control, and the display changed to show classified military plans. Project Prometheus has been running in secret for 15 years. Ever since we made first contact with alien signals. We always knew this day might come. The display showed images of massive spaceships, weapons platforms, and battle plans. Chen continued. While our diplomats were trying to make peace, our military was preparing for war. We have 300 warships hidden in dead systems along our borders. We have weapons the Council has never seen. And we have battle plans designed specifically to fight a galactic war. 300 ships against thousands? The defense minister asked. "Quality over quantity," Chen replied. "Our ships are 50 years more advanced than anything the Council has. They've been at peace for 2,000 years. They've forgotten how to fight. We never stopped learning." The president stared at the battle plans. "This protocol, it's not just about defending ourselves, is it?" Chen's face was grim. "No, sir. The Annihilation protocol isn't about defense. It's about completely destroying the Galactic Council as a political entity. We're going to shatter their government, liberate their slave species, and remake the galaxy." "My God," whispered the foreign minister. "We're talking about overthrowing a government that rules thousands of worlds." "A government that just murdered our ambassador," Chen reminded them. "A government that's planning to commit genocide against humanity." The room was quiet for a long moment. Finally, the president spoke. "What exactly would this protocol involve?" Chen called up more displays. Phase 1. We hit all 12 Council homeworlds simultaneously. Not to destroy them, but to cripple their military and government facilities. Phase 2. We broadcast Elena's final speech to every oppressed species in the galaxy, along with an offer of freedom. Phase 3. We help coordinate rebellions across Council space while systematically dismantling their fleet. "You're talking about the largest war in galactic history," the president said. "Yes, sir. But consider the alternative. If we just defend ourselves, they'll eventually wear us down and destroy us. If we surrender, they'll enslave us or kill us all. The only way humanity survives is if we completely change the balance of power in this galaxy." Captain Torres stood up. "Sir, if I may, there's something else you should know. We've been monitoring communications from other species since Elena's death. A lot of them are horrified by what the Council did. Some are already talking about rebellion." Chen nodded. "The Council made a mistake when they killed Elena publicly. They wanted to send a message of fear, but instead they showed the galaxy their true nature. For the first time in 2,000 years, other species are seeing the Council as monsters instead of protectors. The intelligence director spoke up. Our analysis suggests that at least 30 species would join a rebellion if they thought they had a chance of winning. And with our help, they would have that chance, Chen said. The president looked around the table at his advisors. If we do this, there's no going back. We'll be responsible for whatever comes after. Sir, Chen said quietly. Elena died defending human freedom. Millions of humans on 20 worlds are counting on us to keep them alive. And billions of aliens across the galaxy are trapped under council rule. We can free them all. The vote was unanimous. Every person in the room agreed to activate the Annihilation protocol. Chen immediately began issuing orders. Hidden fleets powered up their engines and began moving toward target systems. Weapons that had been built in secret started coming online. Across human space, every military base switched to full combat readiness. But the most important order went to Earth's most advanced AI system. Begin broadcasting Elena's final speech to every species in the galaxy, Chen commanded. Make sure they know that humanity is coming to set them free. In her speech, Elena had talked about freedom and justice. She had said that every species deserved to live without fear. The Council had killed her for those words. But now those same words would inspire the largest rebellion in galactic history. Chen watched the tactical displays as human fleets moved into position. In 3 days, they would strike simultaneously at the heart of Council power. It would be the most daring military operation in human history. Admiral, Captain Torres asked, what if we lose? Chen looked out the window at Earth one more time. Then at least we'll die fighting for what Elena believed in. But we're not going to lose, Captain. The Council thinks they know what humans are capable of. They're about to learn they were wrong. Across the galaxy, alien species received Elena's final speech. They heard her words about freedom and dignity. They saw how she died for those beliefs. And for the first time in 2,000 years, they began to hope that things could change. The Galactic Council had ruled through fear for so long that they forgot what happened when people stopped being afraid. They were about to remember humanity was coming, and they were bringing freedom with them. Captain Marcus Torres stood on the bridge of the UES Retribution, watching the tactical display count down to 0. Around him, his crew worked silently at their stations. They all knew what was about to happen. In 60 seconds, humanity would declare war on the most powerful government in galactic history. All ships report ready, Captain, said his tactical officer, Lieutenant Hayes. Marcus nodded. Through the view screen, he could see nothing but empty space, but he knew that 11 other human fleets were positioned at 11 other systems across the galaxy. Each fleet was preparing to attack a Council homeworld simultaneously. 30 seconds, Hayes announced. Marcus thought about Elena Vasquez. He had met her once at a military ceremony on Earth. She had been kind and intelligent, the kind of person who truly believed in peace. The Council had murdered her for trying to build bridges between species. 10 seconds, Hayes said. Marcus straightened in his command chair. All ships, this is Captain Torres. Today we strike not for conquest, but for justice. Today we tell the galaxy that humanity will not be bullied or intimidated. Today we begin to set the galaxy free. 0. Execute, Marcus ordered. 30 human warships dropped out of quantum space around Hegemony Prime, the homeworld of Counselor Thekmore. The planet was heavily defended by orbital weapons platforms and a fleet of 200 Hegemony ships, but the human fleet had advantages the aliens couldn't imagine. Launch all drones, Marcus commanded. Each human ship released a swarm of AI-controlled combat drones. Within minutes, 3,000 small but deadly machines were racing toward the Hegemony defenses. The alien ships opened fire with their energy weapons, but the drones were too fast and too smart. They dodged and weaved through the defensive fire, learning and adapting with each passing second. Their AI is incredible, Hayes reported, watching the battle unfold. The drones are rewriting their own programming in real time. The first wave of drones struck the orbital platforms. Instead of trying to destroy them completely, the drones targeted specific systems. Communications arrays, weapons controls, and life support systems all went dark within minutes. The platforms became useless metal shells floating in space. The Hegemony fleet tried to respond, but they were used to fighting according to ancient rules of warfare. They formed neat formations and fired in coordinated volleys, just like they had been taught for centuries. The human drones ignored those rules completely. Second wave, target their command ship, Marcus ordered. The drones swarmed around the largest hegemony vessels, attaching themselves to the hulls and burning through the armor with plasma cutters. They didn't try to destroy the ships. Instead, they disabled engines and weapons, leaving the vessels helpless but alive. "Captain," Hayes said, "we're receiving surrender requests from 47 enemy ships. Accept them all. Tell them to power down their weapons and prepare to be boarded." On his screen, Marcus could see similar scenes playing out around the other 11 Council worlds. Human fleets were dismantling the Council's military power with surgical precision. They were winning, but they were also being careful not to cause unnecessary deaths. This wasn't just a military strategy. It was a political one. Every alien who survived would remember that humans could have killed them, but chose mercy instead. "Sir," the communications officer called out, "we're receiving a transmission from the planet's surface. Put it through." The view screen showed Counselor Thekmore himself, standing in what looked like a government building. His forearms were crossed and his metallic voice was filled with rage. "Human captain," he said, "you have made a terrible mistake. The Council has been protecting this galaxy for 2,000 years. Without us, there will be chaos and war." Marcus stood up. "The only chaos I see is what you created when you murdered an unarmed diplomat. The galaxy doesn't need protection from freedom, Counselor. It needs protection from you. You think you can rule in our place? You are children playing with weapons you don't understand." "We're not here to rule anyone," Marcus replied. "We're here to make sure nobody rules anyone else without their consent." On his tactical display, Marcus could see that the space battle was essentially over. The hegemony fleet was disabled, their orbital defenses were down, and human ships controlled the system. But the real war was just beginning. "Lieutenant Hayes, begin broadcasting package," Marcus ordered. Across the hegemony homeworld and throughout their territory, every communication device began receiving the same transmission. It started with Elena's final speech, where she talked about freedom and dignity for all species. Then it showed the recording of her murder by the Council. Finally, it delivered humanity's message to the galaxy. The message was simple. Any species that wanted freedom from Council rule would receive human support. Weapons, ships, technology, and military advisors would be provided to anyone willing to fight for their independence. The galaxy no longer had to accept Council authority. "Sir," the communications officer said, "we're receiving responses from across hegemony space. 17 different species are requesting immediate assistance with rebellions." Marcus smiled grimly. "Tell them help is on the way, but the most important message was coming from Earth's Intelligence Division. Dr. Sarah Kim and her team of cyber warfare experts had been working around the clock to infiltrate the Council's communication networks. "This is Dr. Kim reporting from Earth Command," came the transmission. "We have successfully penetrated the Council's main data networks. We're now broadcasting Elena's speech and our liberation message to every world in Council space." Marcus watched his displays as the information spread across the galaxy like wildfire. On world after world, oppressed species were hearing Elena's words for the first time. They were learning that the Council had murdered her for defending their rights, and they were discovering that humanity was offering them a chance to be free. The response was immediate and overwhelming. Within hours, rebellions broke out on over 200 worlds. Species that had been forced to serve the Council for centuries suddenly turned on their oppressors. They had weapons now, human weapons that the Council couldn't match. "Captain," Hayes reported, "long-range sensors are picking up major fighting in the Vegan system. The local species have taken control of 3 orbital shipyards. The Altarians have seized their planetary government," added the communications officer. "They're requesting human advisors to help establish a new democracy." Reports kept coming in from across the galaxy. The Council's 2,000-year reign was crumbling in a matter of hours. Species after species was declaring independence and asking for human support. But Marcus knew the real test was yet to come. The Council still had thousands of ships scattered across the galaxy. They would try to crush these rebellions with overwhelming force. That's when humanity would have to prove that their promise of protection was real. "All ships prepare for quantum jump," Marcus ordered. "We're heading to the Vegan system. Time to show the galaxy that humans keep their promises." As the human fleet prepared to leave Hegemony Prime, Marcus looked back at the disabled alien ships floating in space. He had captured an entire fleet without killing a single enemy soldier. Elena would have been proud. The first battle was over, but the war for galactic freedom had just begun, and humanity intended to win it not through conquest, but through liberation. The Council had ruled through fear for 2 millennia. Now they were about to learn what happened when people stopped being afraid and started fighting back. 6 months after Elena Vasquez died on the Council station, Fleet Admiral Chen Wei stood in the ruins of the Council chamber. The massive room that had once intimidated Earth's first ambassador was now silent and empty. Broken pieces of the 12 ceremonial chairs lay scattered across the floor. Through the shattered windows, Chen could see the galaxy's new reality. Ships from dozens of different species floated peacefully together in space. Former enemies worked side by side to rebuild what the war had destroyed. The Council's empire was gone, replaced by something that would have made Elena proud. "Admiral," Captain Torres said as he approached, "the final Council stronghold has surrendered. Thekmor and the remaining Council members are in custody." Chen nodded. The war had lasted 6 months, but it felt like years. Humanity had fought battles on hundreds of worlds, always alongside alien allies who were fighting for their own freedom. The Council's forces had been brave, but they were fighting to preserve an old system while their enemies fought for something new. "What's our final casualty count?" Chen asked. "Surprisingly low, ma'am. We lost about 3,000 human soldiers, and our allies lost maybe 10,000. The Council's forces lost only about 5,000. Most of their troops surrendered when they realized we weren't trying to conquer them." Chen felt a mixture of pride and sadness. Even in war, humanity had tried to follow Elena's example. They had fought to liberate, not to destroy. Every Council world they captured was offered the same choice: join the new alliance freely or remain independent but peaceful. "The representatives are ready for you," Torres continued. "Every species that helped in the war has sent delegates to discuss the new government." Chen walked through the station's corridors toward the new assembly hall. The walls were covered with messages from liberated worlds, thank you notes written in dozens of different languages, all expressing gratitude to humanity and Elena's memory. The assembly hall was buzzing with activity. Over 200 species had sent representatives to help create the galaxy's new government. Humans made up less than 1% of the delegates, despite having led the liberation war. Chen took her place at the podium and looked out at the crowd. She saw former Council slaves sitting next to their former masters, working together to build something better. She saw species that had been enemies for centuries now cooperating as equals. 6 months ago, Chen began, the Galactic Council murdered Ambassador Elena Vasquez for defending the rights of all species to live freely. Today we gather to make sure her dream becomes reality. The hall fell silent. Elena's story had spread to every corner of the galaxy. She had become a symbol of hope for oppressed peoples everywhere. "Elena came here to offer peace," Chen continued. "The Council chose war instead. But even in war, humanity tried to honor her memory. We fought to liberate, not to conquer. We defended the innocent, even when they had been our enemies." A delegate from the Altarian Republic stood up. "Admiral Chen, my people were slaves for 800 years. Humans gave us freedom and asked for nothing in return. We will never forget this gift." Similar statements came from around the hall. Species after species thanked humanity for keeping their promises. The weapons and support that had been offered freely during the war had made the difference between success and failure. But liberation was just the beginning, Chen said. Now we have to build something better than what came before. Elena's final diplomatic proposal included plans for a democratic confederation where every species would have equal representation. Today we make that vision real. The delegates spent 3 days working out the details. The new government would be called the Free Species Alliance. Every species, no matter how small, would have 1 vote in the assembly. Decisions would be made by majority rule, but minority rights would be protected by a constitution based on Elena's principles. The most important principle was simple. No species had the right to rule over another without consent. Military force could only be used for defense or to stop genocide. Trade and cultural exchange would be encouraged but never forced. On the 4th day, the Constitution was signed by representatives from over 400 species. It was the largest peaceful government in galactic history. "Admiral," asked a reporter from the Terran News Service, "what role will humanity play in this new alliance?" Chen smiled. "The same role as everyone else. 1 species, 1 vote. Humans don't want to rule the galaxy. We just wanted to make sure nobody else could rule it either." The ceremony concluded with a moment of silence for Elena Vasquez. Her image appeared on screens throughout the hall, a human diplomat who had died defending alien rights, whose sacrifice had changed the course of galactic history. After the ceremony, Chen walked back to the council chamber one last time. Workers were already beginning to tear down the old ceremonial chairs and replace them with a simple assembly floor where delegates could meet as equals. Captain Torres joined her. "Ma'am, the first convoy of council prisoners is ready to depart for the rehabilitation facilities." Chen had insisted that former council members be treated with dignity. Most would be given the choice between exile and community service, helping to rebuild the worlds they had once oppressed. A few war criminals would face trial, but the goal was justice, not revenge. "What about Thekmore?" Chen asked. "He's requested a meeting with you." Chen found the former counselor in a holding cell that was more like a comfortable apartment. He looked older than she remembered, his gray skin duller and his forearms hanging limp at his sides. "Admiral Chen," he said when she entered, "I wanted to speak with you before my trial." "I'm listening." Thekmore was quiet for a moment.
"I believed we were protecting the galaxy from chaos."
"For 2,000 years, the Council maintained peace and order. I thought your species would destroy that." "We did destroy it," Chen said simply, "but we replaced it with something better." "Yes," Thekmore admitted. "I have been watching the news from the liberated worlds. Species that we ruled are now governing themselves. They seem happier." Chen sat down across from him. "Elena tried to tell you that freedom wasn't a threat to peace. You didn't listen." "No, we didn't. We were so afraid of losing control that we couldn't see that control was the problem." Thekmore looked directly at her. "Your species has done something remarkable, Admiral. You had the power to rule the galaxy, but you chose to free it instead. That's what Elena would have wanted." "Yes, I think it is. I killed her because I was afraid of what humanity might become. Instead, you became what she already was." 3 days later, Chen stood on the observation deck of a human transport ship, watching Earth grow larger in the view screen. She was going home for the first time in over a year. Earth looked the same as always. Blue oceans, white clouds, green continents. But Chen knew that everything had changed. Humanity was no longer alone in the galaxy. They were part of something larger, something that Elena had dreamed of but never lived to see. As the ship entered Earth's atmosphere, Chen thought about the future. The Free Species Alliance would face many challenges. Democracy was messy and sometimes slow. There would be disagreements and conflicts. Some species might try to leave the alliance, while others might try to gain too much power. But for the first time in galactic history, every species had a voice. Every world had the right to choose its own path. And if anyone tried to take those rights away, the alliance would be there to stop them. Elena Vasquez had come to the council station to offer peace and been murdered for her beliefs. But her death had awakened something in humanity and in the galaxy itself. She had shown that some things were worth dying for, and humanity had proven that those same things were worth fighting for. The transport ship landed at the same spaceport where Elena had departed for her final mission. Chen walked down the ramp and onto the soil of Earth, carrying with her the news that Elena's dream had come true. The galaxy was free.